So really quick, if you haven't seen my most recent episode on the most dangerous gamer, make sure you check that episode out because, well, for many reasons, this card has me saying, Wizards, what are you doing? But don't leave just yet because this other card has me saying, no. Okay, that was a very terrible Darth Vader impersonation, impression, whatever you want to call it. I need more coffee. Anyways, let's jump into it. After, of course, you blame Eddie in the comments below, and actually the rest of my playgroup for ruining my hopes and dreams of well, you'll see. You'll see. Just blame Eddie. So we've got Claire de Lune, Joy Sculptor, a 2/3 human performer that costs white and a blue that says, when it enters the battlefield for the rest of the game, tokens you own become cards that are still tokens. They continue to exist after they leave the battlefield. So that is an absolutely crazy effect, and on top of that, pay 1 white blue, tap, you may put a token from your graveyard or hand onto the battlefield. So, okay, one problem with this card, obviously, yeah, there's an acorn at the bottom. And I really wish there wasn't. I really wish that was an oval, which, this is a really weird year for Magic where that sentence makes sense. Like, I wish there was an oval at the bottom of this card and not an acorn. But basically, yeah, again, this is not an eternal legal card, so it's not legal in Commander. But I very much wish it was. Because, well, number one, this is an incredibly cool concept. You know, tokens now being actual cards that are still tokens, but they're actual cards that obviously has a lot of implications because, you know, when tokens basically leave the battlefield in any capacity, they just vanish, they are just gone, they don't hit graveyards. I mean, they hit the graveyard technically, right? But they don't actually stay in the graveyard. They can't bounce their hand and stay there, etc. But if that was the case, well, that is a very cool thing to build around. That is a very cool concept. I mean, just think about, you know, I mean, at the very least, making a ton of creature tokens, getting all those in the battlefield. Okay, someone board wipes. All right, well, luckily for me, I've got a mass reanimation spell. I get all those tokens back. That's something that you obviously cannot do just, you know, in normal Magic because, yeah, tokens are supposed to just disappear. But of course, the application for this card is even more incredible than that. And in fact, there's one reason why I really wish something like this could actually exist in Eternal. Some way to actually make this work. Please! But that's not the case. Even though it would be incredible with this next card. And that would be Battle of Wits. Give me a way to make Battle of Wits work. Give me one way to make Battle of Wits work. Please, because currently, there is no way in Commander to make Battle of Wits work. You cannot make it work. You literally cannot. There are a lot of, you know, ways that potentially could work, you know, if sideboards were allowed and we could utilize wish cards to get those cards and then, you know, shuffle them into our library. We could do it that way, but no, sideboards aren't allowed. Okay, well then how about this other way? How about this other way? Now this other one comes up, you know, with Claire de Lune and it's like, hey, how about you make a ton of tokens, okay? You follow me? And then you get those tokens into your library. And then you get your upkeep with Battle of Wits in play, and you win. Like every single player in Magic has wanted to do for such a long time. Okay, not every single player. Just, you know, a very select group of players that for whatever reason really want to win the game with this very strange alternative win condition card, but cannot because of apparently rules. Rules are annoying. Even though all I want to do is have an enchantment in play that says at the beginning of your upkeep, if you have 200 more cards in your library, you win the game, and I want to win in that weird way because it seems like an interesting challenge, and it seems like a fun thing to do. But of course, rules get in the way. Now, that being said, and the reason why I said blame Eddie and blame my playgroup is because, well, they pointed out some very, okay, yeah, fine, intelligent, thought through reasons as to why this kind of a commander could not be legal and what the problems are. Now, I do have counter arguments to all those. Whether or not they're good counter arguments, well, that has yet to be determined. My first argument, rules have been broken before. Long-standing rules have been broken before. Like, you know, the legend rule. In fact, all the way back in the original Kamigawa block, we got Mirror Gallery, which says the legend rule doesn't apply. So, yeah, you know that one rule that's in the rule book? That doesn't apply anymore. You know, like tokens not being, you know, actual cards that can hit graveyards and hands and libraries. That rule not applying either. But we'll get to that here in a bit. But yeah, I mean, we've seen this now multiple times with, you know, Mirror Box. In fact, Eddie has an entire deck built around Mirror Box, and it's pretty fantastic. The legend rule doesn't apply to permanents you control. Also on that. Even as recently as the Dominaria United Commander Precons, we saw one as well with Kadric Soul Kindler. The legend rule doesn't apply to tokens you control. Okay, and also Sakashima. Yeah, we've seen legend rule breaking in quite a few ways now at this point. And again, that was a well-established rule over years and years and years that had never been broken. And now it's broken in a lot of ways. Now, obviously, the quote-unquote legend rule has different implications to being broken than the quote-unquote token rule. The legend rule just allows two, you know, legends that are the exact same to stay in play, allowing tokens to essentially interact as if they were actual Magic cards. It has some problematic things. Let's just say that. Again, these were pointed out to me. For example, let's take a look at some tokens that you might see. Well, we've got warriors and treasures, and I didn't include an actual other image because on the other image, it would just be a dice or a scrap of paper. Or, you know, other things. Just anything can be a token, essentially, as long as everyone agrees that that is a token and it represents a certain thing. So a warrior could be the warrior you see on the screen, you know, that exact token that Wizards prints. Or again, it could just be a dice that everyone says, yep, that's a warrior. And of course, a treasure can just be, you know, a treasure card like you see on the screen. Or, you know, it could just be a quarter or, you know, anything. It literally, again, as long as everyone agrees that a token is whatever it is, you can utilize it. That is, of course, incredibly fortunate because, yeah, I mean, if you're playing a game, you don't need to have an absurd amount of tokens. Just an absurd amount of every kind of token just in case a certain scenario happens where you happen to make that token. If you don't have the token, it's not like the game just ends because, you don't have the card that you need. You can just utilize something around you that everyone agrees represents that token. But of course, that is a major downside for this new commander that isn't a legal commander because, well, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of problems with, okay, I've got this little dice that is a warrior. Oh no, my warrior died. But now, since also tokens are real cards, I put it in my graveyard. So then you would have, you know, a die in your graveyard. You can't, I mean, that causes a lot of issues. I mean, first up, what happens if, you know, another card hits your graveyard? Does that just get stacked on top of your die? And again, what if you have, you know, not a die? What if you have something else that isn't, you know, easily stackable? On top of that, yeah, what if you have to shuffle your graveyard into your library? Then you can't shuffle a die in your library, obviously, right? I mean, you can try. You're not going to succeed, but you can try. On top of that, even if you do have the actual tokens, this was also pointed out to me as well, they would have to be in the exact same sleeves too, because again, let's say that you had, you know, these two tokens in your graveyard, because again of this new rule, if you shuffled it into your library and they didn't have the same sleeves or, you know, any sleeves at all, you could easily identify where exactly those cards are. And yeah, that's a no-no. So yes, I understand that because of the way the tokens are, you can't have them work in the way that I would like them to work just so I can make a Battle of Wits deck. Now, that being said, of course, Commander is a social format. You can just talk to your playgroup, or those at your LGS, and ask if they are okay with you building a deck around this commander. But if you do, and they are going to agree to this, you need to promise them one thing. You will have a ridiculous amount of tokens for every single token you are going to make. So, again, with a Battle of Wits deck, if you are planning on getting to that, 200 card amount, you're going to have to make a ton of tokens. So whether that's, 150 or 200 warriors or whatever you're making, you need to have every single one of those. So that when they're put into your graveyard or library, they can actually be physically represented there. They would also need to have the exact same sleeves as the rest of the deck too. So that might not be the most fun thing to have to resort your deck after every single game when this happens. But yeah, if you are dedicated to building and winning with a Battle of Wits deck and your playgroup is completely fine with you doing this, go for it. Because my goodness, is that impressive. And is that the kind of dedication that a Battle of Wits player needs. So, problematic things aside, yes, I mean, you technically really could make it work, where it wouldn't actually be all that much of a problem, outside of the inconvenience of you having to resort your deck every single time. All you would need to do is have a crazy amount of tokens that represent everything you could possibly make, and then also have those tokens sleeved in the exact same way as well. But if you do that, and again, you got permission from your playgroup or those at your LGS that it's okay to do it, go for it. And here's what you're gonna do. I mean, of course, like I mentioned before, probably the easiest way to actually, get all these tokens in your library is to, well, probably get them into your graveyard and then shuffle your graveyard in your library. I mean, there's plenty of ways that do that, like, Elixir Mortality. Pay 2, tap, you gain 5 life, shuffle Elixir Mortality in your graveyard into their owner's library. Or Clear the Mind. Target player shuffles their graveyard in the library, draw a card. Or there's even a mana rock that can help you out with this. Midnight Clock has tap, add a blue. Pay 2 and a blue, put an hour counter on Midnight Clock. At the beginning of each upkeep, put an hour counter on Midnight Clock. When the 12th hour counter is put on Midnight Clock, shuffle your hand and graveyard in your library, then draw 7 cards, exile Midnight Clock. So a wheel like this one also includes your hand being shuffled too. So yeah, I mean, if you've got a way to bounce every single one of those tokens that you're making back to your hand, that's also another way that you could go with it. Shuffle them in that way. Now, of course, there are plenty of effective ways to make a lot of tokens in these colors. I mean, increasing devotion, make 5 humans, or if you flash it back, you make 10. Or Call the Copper Coats can make you a human soldier for basically every single creature an opponent controls, or all your opponents control. Or how about Tauren Sky Summoner? Whenever you're casting an instant sorcery spell, you get a 2/2 blue Drake creature token with flying. Now again, with the Battle of Wits deck, let's assume, that by the time you're getting all this going, you're probably going to have like 80 or so cards left in your library before you shuffle. So essentially you're going to want to be able to create like 120 tokens or more at least. And sure, yeah, you can make more and more tokens by doubling them up with like Annoyed Procession. That's definitely a way too. So yeah, if in fact create one of our tokens under control, it creates twice as many tokens instead. And of course, also make sure that you're considering other kinds of tokens as well, like treasure tokens, food tokens, clue tokens. Every kind of a token that you want to be able to create, so you can just flood the board with tokens and eventually get to the amount that you need to, well, win. By, getting them destroyed, getting them in your graveyard, shuffling in your library, and getting your extra upkeep. All those things. Now, that being said, perhaps a more reliable way to get to the amount of tokens that you need might be with maybe an infinite combo, like, Thraben Doomsayer and Intruder Alarm. Thraben Doomsayer has tap, create a 1/1 white human creature token, and Intruder Alarm says creatures don't tap during their controller's untap steps, and more importantly, whenever a creature comes into play, untap all creatures. A very simple combo, obviously. Tap the Doomsayer, make a human. Oh, Intruder Alarm says, hey, let's untap all creatures. Cool. Thraben Doomsayer says, tap. This is untap. Tap, untap, tap, untap, tap, untap. Make as many human creature tokens as you want. Now, that being said, again, like I did say, basically the rule for building a deck like this to actually work in any kind of a reasonable way is that you would need to have a creature token for every single one of those humans. So yeah, you need to make sure you have an absurd amount of those. So yeah, don't go and make 10 trillion of those. Make a more reasonable amount, again, like 130 or whatever you need to actually shuffle into your library to win. Okay. That being said, of course, any infinite mana combination can get you there as well, in combination with cards like Secure the Waste, Martial Coup, and Treasure Vault. Secure the Waste is going to give you, at instant speed, X11 Warriors. Martial Coup is going to give you X11 Soldiers, and also wipe the board for you. Again, if you put enough into that X, which you will be. And then Treasure Vault is actually a land that can just help you get there, essentially. Pay XX, tap, sacrifice it, create X treasure tokens. But again, whatever you do, whatever your avenue is to win with Battle of Wits in this kind of a deck, make sure you have the requisite amount of tokens. Thank you. And yeah, with those treasures especially, that can probably be the easiest way to go about that. Number one, you can utilize those treasures for mana to help you do other things. And number two, well, you can get those treasures in your graveyard on their own. They can just be tapped and sacrificed for mana. If you want to use that or not, doesn't matter. But yeah, getting them to your graveyard makes it a lot easier to shuffle it. But yeah, if you're going the, creature token route, route, you can utilize cards, especially instant speed ones, which can be fantastic to, Okay, again, secure the waste right before my turn, and then I will cast Rout. I can cast it with flash speed, essentially, if I pay 2 more to cast it. Great, also all creatures that can't be regenerated. So I made all those creature tokens. I destroyed all of them. Then I cast Learn from the Past. Target player shuffles their graveyard in the library, draw a card. I shuffle all those cards, including whatever else in my graveyard, into my library. I've got more than 200 then. And of course, I'm also going to have, counterspell backup. Hey, a lot of counterspells too. So yeah, if you're going the infinite mana route, yeah, I mean, this obviously is all a bunch of mana. And yeah, there's other ways to do it that are less mana intensive, of course. I mean, you could have a free sacrifice outlet in play that you could use to sacrifice those creatures. But yeah, there are, of course, ways to do it. But make sure that after you go through all this effort to get all those cards into your library, that you've got ways to actually protect your Battle of Wits. Because that'd be quite ironic if you were all set up and you're just about to get there, and then right before that, someone just says, I return to nature, your Battle of Wits. Which definitely could happen. But now as this episode is coming to a close, it's time for me to give you my final thoughts on Claire de Lune, Joy Sculptor. Yes, okay, I do understand, and again, my playgroup made a lot of good points on why they really couldn't make this one, oval instead of acorn, because, yeah, I mean, when you actually think about how tokens are typically used, I mean, I also utilize dice for tokens as well. If I've got, I'll draw some tokens, but I'll also, put a dice on top of them to, represent how many there are. And also my tokens don't, use the same sleeve as the deck that I use them for. So, yes, I understand the problematic parts of this, but Battle of Wits, come on! So, yes, if you want to build around this commander, and you want to build a Battle of Wits deck, good luck to you. But first of all, make sure you check with your playgroup first, or those of your LGS, that they are okay with you building this kind of a deck and playing it. And again, if they are, ensure that you have enough tokens for the tokens that you can make in this deck and plan to win in that fashion with. You need to ensure that you literally have 1-for-1 the amount of tokens that you are going to be making. And all those tokens, again, have to be in the exact same sleeves. So probably the most reasonable way to go about building this deck literally might just be trying to win in the exact same fashion every single time. Or at the very least with the exact same kind of token, whether that's a treasure token, or again, a human token. If you go for that, Thraben Doomsayer, Intruder Alarm combo, you can have, 120 human tokens, or 150, or however many you need. Just make sure you have it. But yeah, my goodness, am I excited to see what players do with this one, and to see, well, again, if I ever run up against a Battle of Wits deck with this one, I'm going to be pretty happy. And yes, if you have dedicated yourself to building this Battle of Wits deck, and you've checked with your playgroup, checked with the LGS, and they're fine with it, check out that link in the description below for the cards I talked about on this episode. And of course, make sure that you stay tuned to this channel for even more exciting quick takes and spoilers coming up. And with that, the show is coming to a close, so it's my turn to hear from you. So in the comments below, let me know what your thoughts on this episode are, and as always, thanks again and have a good one. This show and episodes like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. If you're looking for an easy way to help support this show, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Also, hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss any new episodes. You can also go check out our playmats and other merchandise at thecommandersquarters.com. We also have a ton of brand new t-shirt designs in stock, so make sure you check out those as well. Another easy way to support this show is with our TCG Player affiliate links. So whether you're buying a deck or individual cards, you can use this general link right here or one in the description. And the final way that you can support this show is by supporting us directly by becoming a patron. There are many benefits to being a patron, and I truly couldn't do this without all of their support.